All right, finally passed our frost dates. Bales have been soaking for the last couple of weeks. I'm sure some of you have seen the pictures and are going, what the hell is he doing with all of this crap? So basically the concept is that we're doing a raised garden in certain sections using the bales. Ooh, yeah, that's bright. And so the bales will become the substrate in which all the plants will grow. And then given this larger area that's in between the bales, once those plants start growing, we'll actually be able to have a little microclimate going on so that the things like carrots and beets and onions will all have plenty of moisture throughout the summer. You can see these are the wintered onions. They're doing good still. They started to go ahead and flower. You can actually see one right here starting to flower. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually take that little bugger off so we can keep the onions going. You can eat it. You can keep cutting back on these guys, just keep them like chives. And at the end of the summer, then you can go ahead and pull for the onion, or just leave it for next year and keep them going. These guys are great. We don't get too cold in the winter, so they were able to go ahead and survive. So what we're gonna do right now is get everything ready for planting, because it's time to go ahead and get these guys into the ground. We got us a nice set of peppers, some little tomatillos. Let's see what else we got in here. Another Roma tomato. And then on top of that, a whole bunch of seeds we'll be doing. Right now, so far we've got in this bed radishes, then the onions, then we have some carrots and beets, another row of onions underneath there, and you can actually see right down there the line as they go down, all of the lovely radishes that are about to go ahead and pop up. And then our two nice little tomato plants on either side. They're growing well, getting established. So next step is going to go ahead and we're going to put on top of the bales some of the potting mix and get those plants set up. So I'll go ahead and show you once we're all finished. One thing that you will notice is I do have a couple thermometers out here, and the reason for that is that we need to make sure that these bales are actually conditioned down and are no longer heating up. Because basically, as you add water to these every day, they begin to break down and decompose inside, and that decomposition creates a lot of heat. It can actually get up anywhere between 120 to 180 degrees, I've heard. Mine have sat at about 130 was the top temperature there. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to come in here, and we're actually going to go ahead and place our thermometer into the center. And you can see, not getting a lot of change right now, which is exactly what we want. I actually don't want to see that heat go up very much, because that means that the composting is done and we're ready to go ahead and plant. Now, one of the ones that I had the longest taking on this particular process was this one here. So we're going to actually go ahead and push this in and see if we raise up in temperature at all. Looks like we're sitting pretty still. If you don't have a thermometer, what you can also do is just kind of put your fingers deep inside there, get a good 2-3 knuckles deep and feel for that. Do it in a couple spots. Usually the center is the best place to look. If you're nice and cool, then you're good to go and plant. If you still feel warmth, you want to make sure that that warmth is under 100, 105 degrees. Anything more than that will start killing your plants. So we'll go ahead, now that we know that those guys are all ready to go, and we'll start taking the tops of our beds. You can see I've actually started here already on one of them. And you can see the little holes where I've been placing the water throughout. And it's nice and breakable. So what you're going to do is just kind of break that top up just a little bit. Give yourself some working space, places to go ahead and put the plants in. And we're going to go ahead and do that with each of the bales. And then once we're finished with that, we'll go ahead and top them up with some of this garden soil. That way they'll have plenty of nutrients and substrate to grow in. And then the nice part about this is, since these guys are so open on the sides, those roots are going to get great aeration, which means nice healthy plants. So hopefully we'll get some good yields this year and have plenty of stuff for the rest of the summer and fall and into the winter. All right, we'll be back in a bit. And start with our first middle bale. Now, one of the things that I've learned in gardening, and I'm sure a lot of you that do garden know already, is about doing companion planting. With these bale gardens, you're gonna get maybe 2 to 3 plants per bale, and you wanna make sure that you're putting the right plants together so that they don't take too much of the other plant's nutrients, get in its way, or make it more susceptible to disease or any type of blights or funguses, molds, all that good stuff. So we've gone ahead, and if you can see, we've gone ahead and topped that top of the bale with some of our nice garden soil. And the next thing what we're gonna do is we're gonna decide where we're gonna put the tomato plant. Now the tomato plant, when you're doing these bale gardens, you need to make sure that they're determinate tomato plants, which means that they have a specific size that they're gonna grow to. If you do an indeterminate plant, you really don't wanna use them in the bales as far as I have researched and come to know about. Again, this is my first year, so we'll find out as we go. But if you're going to put an indeterminate, you want to make sure it's in the ground because it is going to get big, and you're going to need to make sure that you're able to scale it back when you need to and have plenty of room for it to grow. So we have these guys sitting off to the side. They're technically indeterminates, but we'll leave them and see how they get going. So in the meantime, since we've decided we're going to go ahead and take the tomato plant and make sure that this one's in the middle of this bale, since it's going to be the bigger plant, we'll give it a little space from this one here. So first things first, try and get a good picture for y'all. So we're going to find that good area that we're going to work in. Now remember, if you've already planted, try not to step on your other plants. But we'll take a look here, and you see that you get a nice print of how big this pot is. And you can see right there, nice big print. But the problem is most people will go ahead and dig down straight there, put the plant in, and that's all they'll do. Most of the time, plant will work its way out, but it won't be as strong as it could be if we gave it a little extra room. So what we're gonna do is we'll dig down about the size of the plant, open that up a little bit, and then make sure that we open it about double the size of where we're actually gonna put this plant in. If you need to pull some stuff out, go ahead and do that. It is gonna be wet, it is gonna be a little smelly sometimes. Mine actually smells like dirt, so I feel good about that. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and put you on pause just a moment while I get this tomato out. Okay, so we have our nice little Roma tomato. It's gonna be a determinate tomato. And what you go ahead and do is just kind of squeeze this little pot just a little bit. That way you can go ahead and loosen it up. And you can actually set that down. Normally I'd use 2 hands to go ahead and put this out, but go ahead and do that. Now you can see lovely root system in there. So what we're gonna do is just kind of open those roots just a little bit. That way they can realize that they have more space. Nothing too much, don't want to damage them. Very gentle, keep them nice and healthy. And then we go right into the pot. It decided it wants to go there. It needs to be in this plant. So you can see there, notice that the plant has a couple of stems and leaves that are at the very base with tomatoes. You want to go ahead and take those guys off. Just pinch them off. Top one too, take him as well. The reason for that is those spaces are actually, they can turn into roots, and it'll give the plant a lot more stability. So you can see we're gonna press that in, make sure we have plenty of potting soil over it. Seems to be nice and steady now. Sorry about that. Good. Okay, also, don't overpress. When you press too hard, luckily these bales stay pretty arid, but if you're working in soil, you press too hard, the plant's gonna have nowhere to go. So we're gonna go ahead and back up here, and you can see now, we've got our nice little Roma tomato planted in the center of our bale. Now for me, I like these guys. They're good, sitting a good distance from each other, but I've got that space up front that I wanna do something with. Okay, we've opened up our package here for the basil. Looks like they gave us some lovely little planting stakes to let us know what we're doing here. That's nice. Doesn't really tell you what the different basils are, but I guess since it's a pod, you can try them all. It tells you all the information on the back. And then we have the lovely package here. Go ahead and open it up. All right, so for these guys, they're these neat little pellets. So we can get a good picture on there. And what I'm guessing is they'll have the seed inside and a little bit of fertilizer and everything with them to keep them going. So basically what they say is to go ahead and put them in a 1/4 inch. And what I'll do is just basically use my finger as a punch. Put that in about a knuckle and a half down, and then we'll start seeding these in. So we got our little pile here. Looks like we got maybe 20 little pods. So what we'll do is we'll just place a little finger hole. Good. Drop 1 or 2 of those little pods in there. Give it some space. Put another little hole. And these guys can actually grow out of the side of the bale. Once you finish, just cover those over, that way they don't forget about them. So they can technically be growing all over the place, but we'll try and put them up front, that way they'll have plenty of room to get down and do their thing. Yeah, I know, I put a few extra on that one. Drop a couple back there. Looks good. Okay. And we'll put these last ones off to the side here, see how they grow. Any other ones that we want? Okay, we got one little last one. And just for fun, we'll come down here and put them in the side. Actually, put them in the side over here. There we go. Nice little side poke. And we'll see if he grows. If he does, he does. If he doesn't, no big deal. Got plenty up top. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and cover those guys over. There you go. You see, nice and covered. So we got nice tomato in the center, Roman tomato, 3 different types of basil up front, and we come down to our little tomato over here, and this one's our, what do we have here? Sunrise tomato sauce. So it's gonna be a little orange tomato, which should be cool. All right, so once we got that finished, we're gonna go ahead and work on the next bales. Remember, companion planting, you wanna put certain things together. Onions and beans should be on opposite sides. Tomatoes and potatoes should never be grown close together because unfortunately they share the same diseases. But we'll go ahead and start getting everything else ready, and we'll show you what's going on after that. All right, so we decided to go ahead and keep this side as our pepper and tomatillo side. We will throw a tomatillo on the opposite side just to keep the bugs down. For some reason they tend to attack the leaves on tomatillos, which keeps them away from everybody else, so that's good. So what we have right here is it's shiso pepper. These guys are nice and sweet and spicy at the same time. Lovely green tomatillo in the back, and then some Santa Fe assorteds that are sitting there. So you see them still in the cups. It was just to be able to hold the ground open while we go ahead and work here. So again, give it a little squeeze all the way around. You can actually see the soil start to pop up. You can actually hold it at the base and pull that directly out. Or, there you go, perfect. All right, try not to put too much strain on that stem, but working with one hand, you can imagine it gets a little tedious. But get that nice and down in there, get it stable, and pack them in with that soil. Remember, good pack, but not too tight. All right, so that's 1 down, 2 to go. Be right back. All right, so we have this really nice sweet banana pepper that we have left. It's one of the larger peppers I got this year, so far at least. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna put him right next to the tomato that's in the center here. Tomatoes and peppers do okay together. So again, be careful of your ground. You got stuff growing under there, don't step on it. All right, so we're gonna come in here. This is a big pot, so it's gonna take a lot of space. So if you need to pull and tear a little bit, that's fine. That's the lovely part about these bales is once they're processed, it's so easy to get inside of them, especially for that depth. There we go. And you'll notice underneath each one of them, yeah, there's this lovely newspaper. And as much as it looks disgusting, it actually serves a great purpose. Helps keep out all of the weeds and other things trying to grow up into the bale or down through the bale. Not really worried too much about the growing through, but here we go with this guy here. Squeeze out there. Nice and gentle like. Come on, little bugger. Sorry about that. Had to get a little bit better grip because it was so large, but you can see we did get it in. So put our little stake there. Now, as pretty as this little flower is, and as much as I would really like to keep it, since we're just starting off and we're early in the season, I'm actually gonna go ahead and take that off. So we can leave it there. It'll look pretty, it'll be nice. But right now we don't need this fruiting. We need it to start getting roots going on. And that way during the summer, it'll be a lot easier for it to grow. All right, so we've gone ahead and planted our lovely tomato. We got the basils that have been planted seed-wise up front, and our nice little pepper in the back. A little shifted, but I'm sure it'll stand up in its way. And then of course we'll have the new bed that we'll be working on, our little tomato here. And then we have the 2 peppers and the tomatillo that we just discussed a moment ago. Have one more tomatillo to do. I think we'll go ahead and put it in the center of this bale. And then we should be done with the planting of the live plants and we can get on to some of the seed. Last little tomatillo in. It's looking good, a little green tomatillo. And you notice we got the lattice growing up here. Now this is where we're gonna go ahead and put our melons and our zucchini and stuff like that, so we can actually get them to grow up that vine and hopefully over the top here. And then we'll have them being able to hang down. Should keep it a lot cleaner, a lot more air to move around, so you shouldn't have as many pests and molds and mildews. But we'll see how it works. First time. So again, on this side, we're probably gonna go with our growing vines, so things like peas or beans, and see how those go, so that way they can climb up the trellis. And then we'll go ahead and move back over to our empty patch here and put in some of the pumpkins and other low-lying squashes. So we'll see what happens. Let's go ahead and use this back bale as the one for our beans and peas. It does have a nice little fence that's going to be repaired so that way it can climb up and start moving from there. So all we're going to do is just level this area out again, because these are going to be seed, so it's not going to be like the plant where we have to open them up as much. But what we do, for me, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stagger them. So I'm going to go 1 pea and then 1 garden bean, and we'll alternate and do 3 rows of those. That way we can get a good seeding in, and if we need to, we can always thin back later on. So again, nice little finger, plop that in there, and then grab a pea or a bean, close them back up, and then we alternate over. Bean, and then 1 more over here to pea, and they're good. So those guys are in, and that's 1 line. And we figure with this bale, I'm gonna go ahead and probably do about 5 to 6 lines. So once those are done, I'll be back with you. All right, I've gotten the next sets in. Held up on doing the last row because I did want to tell you on first thing, for me when I'm doing seed, you'll notice that inside there's 1, 2 or 3 in each of the little packets. There you go. And the reason for that is that just in case one of the seeds doesn't sprout, then you have the second one there as a backup. And if you're worried about having too many of them, once they start sprouting, you can see which ones are the healthiest and actually thin those guys back. So now that we've gotten all those in, we'll go ahead and do that. And I did leave the last row because I do know there are people out there that are not like me, that don't like to have to put their finger into the dirt or into the muck, because some of this does get a little squishy, a little slimy. So if you need to, just grab yourself a nice piece of wood, stick, something like that, and you can do the exact same thing as your finger. Give it a good twist, open it up a little bit. Same one here, and then 1 more. And you can put that to the side. Again, go ahead and grab our peas on one end. So we got those 2 in there. So can you see them? You're way down there. Alright, and then we got a couple of beans that we'll put in. This one here, 1, 2, and then the last of our peas. And those guys right there. Cover over, nice and pretty. Make sure that they're tapped down, that way nothing comes in and steals them or they blow away with the wind, since we've been having crazy wind. All right, so that takes care of that bale, and that bale is now fully seeded with our peas and beans. Last thing we have to do is our nice little early sweet sugar pie pumpkins. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one row straight down here and do those. So we'll do that, and I'll come back once we're finished. Did 3 groupings of the pumpkin straight down that line, and basically same as we did for the peas and the beans, we're going to go ahead and put 2 or 3 seeds in each of the holes. So there are 3 holes there, and that should give us plenty of options as far as the pumpkins coming out, and we can go ahead and stretch those out here into the yard, see how those go. Now for the last and most important step, once you've got everything planted in, it's looking nice, it looks good, happy, healthy, got the seeds in, all that, we're going to leave that last one. That one we're going to go ahead and figure out something cool to grow in. If you guys have any ideas, shoot them my way. But other than that, what we have to do now is make sure everything is watered in. So we'll take a nice gentle sprinkle, get that all soaked in, make sure that the garden is nice and moist for the next few days while those get established, and then we should be ready to start growing for the season. All right, we'll see you guys later. It looks like we've got everything watered in well. Got our little tomatillo sitting here, and our cucumbers and squash seeded in. They'll have their nice lattice to grow up on. And then of course we have our radishes and onions, carrots, beets, and then repeat all over again. Onions, carrots, beets, radishes. And back in the corner, that little space right there, we got some white sweet corn going, our nice pepper that we put in today, and our tomato, the Roma tomato, and of course our spot for all of the 3 different types of basil, which will hopefully be growing pretty soon. Lovely little orange sweet tomato for cooking. We got one more row of radishes on this side, and then straight down the middle there is where we put our pumpkins. Our back bale is seeded with the peas and garden beans, and that little tiny corner right there with a little bit of green, went ahead and put some loofah gourd seeds, so we'll see how those go. And then we're working our way up here to our lovely little peppers. We got the shiso and the Santa Fe, and our tomatillo in the middle, and then our final little lovely cooking tomatoes, bunch tomatoes. So everything's nice and clean. Dog's ready to play. Looks like we're gonna have a nice garden this year. Just gotta keep it up. All right, let's see pictures of your guys now.